Welcome back to another review, this time for the anime One Punch Man Season 3, which had 12 episodes and was airing in autumn of 2025. Synopsis on any list. Saitama is a hero who only became a hero for fun. After 3 years of special training, he's become so strong that he's practically invincible. In fact, he's too strong. Even his mightiest opponents are taken out with a single punch. Alongside Genos, his faithful disciple, Saitama performs his official hero duties as a member of the Hero Association. One day, monsters claiming to be from the Monster Association suddenly appear, taking a child of Hero Association executive hostage. The S-Class heroes gather and plan a raid on the Monster Association hideout to rescue the hostage. Meanwhile, Garo, a human monster who was taken by the Monster Association during a battle with the heroes, awakens in the Monster Association hide. Fuck's sake, stop repeating this. Okay. Where to begin? Animation, I guess. Yeah, I assume you probably have heard or seen. Animation was not great. Let's not sugarcoat it. Animation was bad. It just is not what you want to see. In One Punch Man, you have a lot of action. There's a lot of fighting, especially season 3, and for these fights, you need some kind of animation. It needs to feel good to watch. Now, I'm going to be honest. Some scenes looked really good. Do not get me wrong. Some scenes looked really good. You could take like a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, and you're like, hey, this is looking really good. You have some scenes that are looking and then you have a lot of scenes that are looking bad. And it is very jarring. I did make the comparison to the other show with the, Potion Life Saved My Life, or whatever that was called, where they were like, okay, we just stick to this level and everything seems, there seems to be a cohesion. In One Punch Man Season 3, there is no cohesion. Sometimes you have animation, you are like, holy shit, are we watching the same show? And then you have animation where you are like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's like listening to a podcast or a book being read by someone because there's nothing happening on the screen. Now, they try to hide it with this filter usage. Essentially, this would be no problem, but they overuse it for scenes that don't matter. Some of the scenes with the filter look really good. Rarely, sadly. But most of the time, they just use it, I don't know, to differentiate that something is happening, which there still is not much. Even whenever we have some fights, again, some of the animation is really bad. And it is very hard to watch because, again, you see little glimpses of, oh, this is what we could have gotten. This, as the quality standard for the whole season, would have been so good. But no, it's like 2 seconds, average, like, let's say 5 seconds every, it's a little bit harsh, but like maybe 5% of every episode has like solid animation and the rest is like not much, not much to watch, sadly. The comedy also is a little bit problematic because One Punch Man, they rely on visual gags or somewhat, regularly. Where, the chibi form, as example, is like a gag. It's a, hey, this is a non-serious situation, so we have the little chibi form. Works well. it works really well if the rest of the animation is really crisp and really serious, and it's like, oh yeah, and then you switch to the chibi form, that, you know, that gap is really effective on making it more funny. However, because we don't really have good animation, that gag sadly falls more flat than it should be. And we also have like some scenes don't even show anything. You had this, you know, somewhat famous situation where they just showed the side of a building for like ever, it felt like forever. And the problem with all of these things is these would be, you know, these would just be a little nitpicks for a normal show, but in One Punch Man in season 3, it's so often that it's most of the show. It's not like in old animes where you have like a freeze frame where the character looks goofy and the eyes don't line up and it's like, who drew this? But the rest of the episode or show looked good, so you don't really care. It's like, haha, funny. Look at, you know, this little freeze frame. But in here it's like, look at this freeze frame, this looks good, the rest looks... It is very sad. It is very sad because it is an action anime. You do need somewhat good animation to make it enjoyable to watch. We also did not get to see a lot of Saitama. We got to see a lot of different characters, and this is fine if you want to develop more characters like Garo. We get some development from him. It seems like we are building up to this big fight, Garo against Saitama. And, you know, that can work fine, but we get introduced to a lot of heroes and more surface, and there's not really much going on. We also have this big fight between the Monster Association and the Hero Association, which could have been really awesome if the animation was there, which it is not. It is one of the big pain points, so it is worth pointing it out multiple times, even if it is a little bit obnoxious. But I felt the fights that we got were a little bit because this is a little bit spoilery, sure, yeah. However, I do not know the manga itself, but we had like mirror matches where we have a hero, we have a monster, they both specialize in the same thing, and seemingly the heroes are stronger every time, which is... There's nothing really going on. In older seasons, it's more like, hey, we have the heroes, they fight, they get their asses kicked because we have this big fucking alien monster that just is handling them with a little finger, and he's just ripping everyone apart, and then the Saitama comes and he is, you know, showing how strong he is compared to that alien, even though that alien, you know, handled every other hero easily. And that is like, oh, Saitama is really awesome. You need that. We did not get this at all in this season, because we never saw the enemy of Saitama really fight. And it's like, we did not get to see much of Saitama at all. I would compare the idea of the shows to similar to like Eminence and Shadow, where you have an OP character that is so strong and potentially the strongest being in that world, and you can't overuse it. It's just simple. So you try to build up the other characters. Eminence and Shadow, in my opinion, does it really well. You know, you have this whole situation, you have this uncovering of an organization, you get to introduce to all these members, and they are all different and interesting, and you get to see their chemistry. I don't feel One Punch Man does it that well, which means that this season, apart from the animation, having the focus on all these characters did not really do much for the characters itself. We saw them fight a bit, we saw some of their abilities, we saw, you know, there was one character which is interesting, okay. And if every character introduced had something like that, we could be talking. I feel like in the story, I have to go back a bit. In the story, we, you know, go and try to attack the Monster Association. We try to rescue the child. Understandable. And instead of just sending the S-class heroes and then building a little bit more there, we have like a bunch of A-class heroes which are like, okay, they're here, I guess. We don't really get any development from them. We don't really get to see much. It's like, okay, they just took up time we could have used to, you know, delve a little bit further into the S-class heroes, like we did last season with the old fighter dudes, which name I totally remember, definitely. And, you know, have that for all the other characters we have in the S-class, like Puri Puri Prisoner. We know a little bit about him, you know? But there are some we just, you know, they are here and we don't really have much going on with them development-wise. The ones we have did not really get developed more, which I feel like we could have gotten a little bit more there if we just left the, you know, the support somewhere else off screen where they belong, in my opinion. Yeah, it is very, very hard to watch. Can't we, what is there to talk about? Not really much. I believe this feels like a setup for another core or season. We seemingly stopped halfway, it felt like. I don't really have much hope for the future of the show. I do not know how the reception is in Japan, which is the most important. Because we only see it from the Western audience, and the Western audience, they like One Punch Man as an idea, as a show, but maybe Japan never really got on board with it, and that is why we had this train wreck. And if Japan never really was interested in One Punch Man, then I guess we are not going to get much there. I could understand it. Maybe there was not really interest in from the high-ups because there's not much to really sell, you know, figure-wise. Because let's be honest, female figurines are going to sell like hotcakes, whatever the show is. And we don't really have many female characters in the show that you could make new figurines about. I mean, we have the Blizzard and Tornado Sisters, and we have the Bad Monsters, and that's it, I guess. So maybe that is the reason they never really were interested in pushing One Punch Man further. I don't know. It's very hard to really find out what exactly happened. We only know a lot of people got pissed. Some rightfully so. I mean, be critical is always good. Let your voice be heard. If it looks bad, say it looks bad. Be reasonable, always. Don't say this is the worst thing you have ever seen if it is not the worst thing you have ever seen. I did watch like half of Blue Lock season 2, and you know, there's not much difference, which is not a high bar, to be honest. And you know, just be civil. Death threats and stuff like that is not really useful. It doesn't really further anything. It doesn't make the show better. It does not make the show better in the future. It is just going to potentially make everything worse, because if I did something and people were shitting on it because I did a bad job, I would probably just do a worse job next time just to spite you. And, you know, I'm a negative person, so we will see. Ratings after all this yapping. Any list, 53%. My anime list, 4.6. I do want to talk about this a little bit as well. Normally, my anime list is higher than any list. I don't know why, but this is like the 20th or so show I'm, you know, checking the ratings. And normally, my anime list is higher than any list. Any list is more critical. Whenever that is, you know, inverse and any list is higher than my anime list, I am going to assume that my anime list rating is, you know, not sabotaged, but, you know, are probably a lot of people that are just jumping on my anime list and giving the show a bad rating, even though they never watched it. Just because, you know, it's a bandwagon, they want to be part of the group and they like hating stuff. I'm going to assume that is the case here. Just, you know. Additionally, my rating, I do have to clarify. For me, important are like, you know, a 6 out of 10 is like, it is not worth watching. It is, 7 is like, okay, I can see some parts interesting. There could be something going on, okay. 7, understandable, okay. 8 is good, 9 really good, and 10 is like an awesome show you want people to watch, you are just going to tell your friends about. Meaning, a 5 is a show I would actively recommend not watching. Again, a 5 for me is a show I would tell you not to watch. A 4 would be a show that, I don't know, that is borderline unwatchable, and 3 and below is like, doesn't really exist for me. I mean, it's there I would be just nitpicky, because it would have to be a show that has like no animation, it has no story, no potential funny bits, nothing at all. One Punch Man does have a story. The comedy does not work as well because the contrast to the serious parts are not doing well because the animation is not good. However, we do have tiny bits of good animation, you know, in all the sea of bad. So I can't really be too harsh. However, I would give it a 5 out of 10. Meaning, I would actively recommend not watching One Punch Man Season 3. Just read the manga. You have a better time. Straight up. There are, again, little bits, and you could maybe see some of the fight scenes whenever you finish the manga, and, you know, there's probably some Reddit thread somewhere where they're like, okay, this fight scene you can watch, this one, not so much. But yeah, this is not worth wasting your time and watching. Straight up.